I had the pleasure to play with Fujifilm GFX 100 Mark II for a couple of last days, and I gotta say I'm loving it. But this video is not about specifically about gear. It's more about it's specifically about interior and architecture photography, which I'm like very much into, and I'm like making a lot of money on it because I have like clients pretty much every week to shoot in both interiors, exterior parts, gardens, and this kind of stuff. And it really brings money. So let's talk about basics of how to do it right and how to do it in a simple way. So to start with, I did some photos with GFX 100 Mark II and GF tilt shift 30 millimeters, which for full frame standards would be something around 24 millimeters. But I also use Sony A7 Mark III, yes, Mark III, not Mark IV, because it gives more dynamic range, and size 16 to 35 millimeter lens, very universal, very good lens for interior photography. So those are the specifics of my gear. Now, let's talk about settings. My basic to-go settings is f9, ISO 100, and I usually bracket the files. So I bracket them like 3 exposures, 2 stops away each. So one is 2 stops underexposed, one is exposed properly, and one is 2 stops overexposed. And then I merge them in software, and it gives me extra dynamic range, which is not actually that necessary in case of Fujifilm GFX. It's more for Sony and full frame cameras. You will get this edge, you will get this extra dynamic range. Of course, some interior photographers will say I use 5 or more bracketed files, and that's fine because every file will give you more of a dynamic range. Okay, now let's talk about the most important part. So how to use tilt shift lens and how to do it right. So how to position yourself right in the interior, and what height is the best to start with. So I usually start with 120 centimeters. So this is more or less like table, a little bit over the table height. So this is my to-go height that you can see actually like my camera on a tripod in the interior on a real photo shoot for a client. So 120 is my way to go. Then from that point, if generally things in the interior are lower, like a lot of sofas and lounges and this kind of stuff, I lower my my camera to capture more of that and to show a little bit of the floor and not too much of a ceiling, because we want also to show accessibility and connection between different spaces, which is very important, not to cut stairways and this kind of stuff, because people want to see how to get from space to space, and this will satisfy your client. Next, about leveling. It's all about leveling. Like interior photography is about geometry and leveling, period. So there are three things to consider when leveling your camera. So this level, like horizontal leveling. Then you have this leveling, let's call it a vertical leveling. So you don't want to tilt it down or tilt it up, because you will get this or that distortion. You want to have it perfectly leveled. Fortunately enough, not like back in the days, but nowadays all the cameras have pretty accurate like levelers built into the camera, which you can see on the B-roll. So that's pretty much easy. But even that, like I noticed that my Sony leveler is not perfectly accurate, so I always control frame on my LED display to see if I'm perfectly even. But I said about 3 positions of leveling. One more is this leveling. So you can shoot interiors from the corner, which is okay, but my main shots, my favorite shots, my best shots are usually straight on. So you want to have a perfect parallel between your lens and between the wall that is opposite to you, or any object that is opposite to you, to find this perfect geometry, to find this perfect composition. So that's about positioning. So I usually position myself in the middle and I shoot straight on, and those are my favorite shots. From the corner are great to show like how, for example, open space connect with like how different spaces in an open spaces, houses that are very popular nowadays, connect with each other. So for example, like how is like the lounge connected to the kitchen, and for example to dining area. So these things are great when you shoot angle shots from the corner, as you can see on the photos right now. Now you will ask me like, okay, so what's the need for tilt shift lens? So like tilt, usually I just don't use tilt. I have tilt shift lens just for shift. So tilt is like, you know, like lens can rotate and can change the focal plane. It will just tilt, you know. That's it. But the main point of tilt shift lens is shift. So you can basically choose which part of the picture you want your sensor to record. So you want to go down or you want to go up, and now you can see on a B-roll like how that affects on a video, just how that affects the framing. So basically, usually I want to have this 120 centimeters rule fulfilled, and like I put it on a tripod, and then for example I feel like, oh no, I have too much ceiling, I go down. Oh, I have too much of a floor, like there's something not very nice there, so I want to frame it a little bit up. And usually I don't shift very high unless I'm shooting something big from the outside. And talking about outside, you can see one of like beautiful Portuguese towns in Alentejo called São Luís, and you can see how beautifully you can shoot architecture from the outside, where you don't have to show too much of the, you know, of the road, too much of the asphalt as they call it in Germany, but you can go up and show architecture, focus more on architecture. And this shift function of this lens will give you the edge over other photographers that don't use that. But I also said I'm using 16 to 35, and I'm actually using 35mm lens a lot, and then I switch to vertical mode. I go to 4.5 or 5.6 f-stop, and I go 35mm and I shoot details. I call it mood boards, or like, you know, details from the interior or from the exterior if there's a beautiful garden. And that makes the client happy. So he will get, you know, this beautiful wide angle shots that tells us, you know, that shows the space beautifully. But I also get this mood boards, these moody shots of some beautiful details, of some geometries you found in a you know, apartment or whatever space you're taking photos of, and that will create complete product. When talking about complete product, there's a need for having a shot list. If you don't follow a shot list, you will get lost and you will get tired with interior photography. You have to strictly follow your shot list. My shot list is usually I devote like 2 frames to each space. So if we have open space, I will take 2 frames of lounge area, I'll take 2 frames of kitchen area, 2 frames of dining area, and then I'll take 1 or 2 frames, usually 2 frames from the corners to show how those spaces intervene. When it comes to bedrooms, usually 2 shots, 1 mood board, that's enough. 2 shots for bathroom, 2 shots for kitchen, 2 shots for, I don't know, like verandas and, you know, all this kind of rooftop spaces. In case of rooftops, usually if they are beautiful, I will take more, like 4 shots, and some exterior shots, like 2 in a garden, 4 in a garden. That's more or less it. So usually like the 2-bedroom apartment or 2-bedroom house would take me a lot, something between 25 to 35 shots. Usually it's around 30 shots, and that's a sweet spot. So you tell the story, you give polished photos that you put attention to, that you compose very well, and the client will be happy. This works, trust me, because I took like hundreds and hundreds of those photo shoots. I did it, and like I never had like unhappy client. Okay, one was unhappy, but there was something wrong with the guy, but that's another story. But like, or like I took like over 300 or maybe 400 of those shoots, and like nobody came back. So yeah, that's a good result, I think. So those are my recommendations for interior and architecture photography. Remember that there are always exceptions. There are some special spaces that maybe need some different, you know, treatment, different approach, but this works for 99% of spaces, and it's very easy to process those files. And I usually use preset that I have, like this is ready-made preset, and I just adjust white balance and a little bit of brightness here and there, and that's it. However, having said that, you may find useful to use strobe lights, and some of you will say, I never approach an interior without strobe light. I don't. I prefer the natural look. I prefer people to see how beautiful the space is, but I want them to see reality. So that's my approach, but your approach might differ. And one more thing that I didn't say before, I usually turn off electric lights, because usually like those lights have all kinds of different colors, yellow, blue, and then I have a lot of color cast. So I prefer to turn off the lights, and my favorite time of the day to shoot is around 11 a.m. So those are my recommendations. Those things really work, and I hope you will find a lot of clients, shoot a lot of beautiful interiors, and have a lot of fun with it. And I do recommend GFX 100 Mark II because it is a great camera. But of course, A7 Mark III with 16 to 35 will do the job also. It depends on how ambitious you are and how far you want to go. Okay, guys, I hope you enjoyed it. Thumbs up. Leave comments below, likes, subscribes, and I see you guys in the next one. Ciao.